Hello everybody, and welcome to another Interstellar Modeler. In this video what I'm going to do is have you follow along as I build my first diorama. So my inspiration for trying this here is a model show that I attended back in October of 2015 called OrangeCon, and they had a category for dioramas and they were very impressive, and I thought I would just try my hand at creating one. There is another model show coming up here in 2016. It's just around the corner. This is February, so it's coming up in March. And it's called ValleyCon, and I hope to enter this one into that contest. Now, in regards to winning an award, I probably won't stand a chance, but you know, I thought it would be a fun project to work on and feature here on my YouTube channel. And so what we have here is, first of all, this model kit by Glencoe Models called the Mars Liner. And this essentially is a model of the rocket that used to be featured at Disneyland. In fact, if you go there, there is a miniature version of this still on display, at least it was the last time I was there. And this essentially is a rocket that they envisioned would be going off to Mars. And if you think back to the 1950s, there were a lot of visionaries who thought we'd be on Mars by now and have colonies in space and space stations floating around and so forth. And here we are in 2016 and we don't have anything quite like that. But you know, I was always intrigued by the artwork that these guys came up with, and that's what this little artwork here reminds me of. And I thought it would be cool to try to make a scene based on something like this. Let me take a second just to show you the concept now. So what I would have are 3 domes that would be interconnected. Along with this would be a launch pad that would also be connected to the main dome. And on top of the launch pad would sit the rocket. The terrain would be kind of a rocky terrain there, and I'd paint it orange to make it look like Mars. So these are materials I've gathered besides the model now. I have a 12 by 12 base here that I purchased at Michael's. This is the same thing I use for the Interstellar Ranger. And then these domes here are the ornaments they sell at Michael's. You can these are decorative clear ornaments you can put stuff in for Christmas. And so I thought they would be perfect for the domes that I have in mind here. And then for the launch pad, this is just a cover to a Spackle bucket. This is something I thought would function as a nice launch pad here. So I'm going to decorate this up and hopefully make it look like a launch pad. Alright, so the first step then would be to work with the domes. I'm going to go ahead and light block them. I already have in mind how I'm going to decorate the exterior. And of course we've got to drill holes and so forth, so we'll get started on that right now. Okay, so here's how it's looking so far. I've primed the domes and also light blocked them from the inside. You can see I've drilled holes for windows, and I've added some exterior detailing. Now the one thing I did discover, however, is that the landing pad is not large enough for the rocket, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do away with the landing pad and just set the rocket in this area here. I think I'll add this little dome here as an airlock. And so the next step now is to plan out the lighting, and then we're going to move on to creating the landscape. So here's the layout. The domes are going to arrange as so, and in the center of each dome is now a styrene tube that's been glued into place, and that's going to allow us to feed the light through, and we're ready to mount those. So from here, the next step now is to create the terrain landscape, so I'm going to go ahead and start doing that, and I'll show you that as I move along here. So the first step in creating my terrain here is to glue some rock formations here along the perimeter. Now they don't look like much, but they don't have to at this point, because what I'm going to do once these are dried in place here is I'm going to use Spackle to create the formations and hills that I have in mind here. Now these rocks were created with this casting plaster, and this is something that's available at your hobby store. Most people use them for model train sets and so forth, but certainly for dioramas too. But you can make your own rocks by just mixing the stuff up and pouring it into a mold like this. Now when my kids were younger, I was messing around with train sets, and this is why I have some of this sort of stuff. So this rock piece I've had for quite some time. So I just took one piece, split it up, and just glued them into place. So this is the spackle I'm going to be using here now, and I got this stuff at Home Depot. And what I'm going to do is just start laying it down, just putting globs of it basically on here, and just shaping it into the hills and land features that I have in mind. So you can see I was able to create the formations that I was looking for here, and what I'm going to do now is just let this dry in the sun. So once this is dry, I'm going to apply this ground cover. This is some ballast that I got at a local hobby store, just fine grained sand. And I'm going to apply some watered down wood glue here and sprinkle this on, and that is what the ground cover is going to consist of. Okay, so let's go ahead and let this dry. Okay, so our spackle is all dry now. And one thing I want to make note of is, as you know, I started with using this brand here, which did not work very well, by the way. So I actually think that the Ace Hardware brand is actually best for this. The reason being is that this one didn't stick very well together when you were trying to shape things. And it seemed like it looked okay, but it also didn't dry well either. So it was harder to shape, and it dried really slow, and even when it was looking dry, it was still pretty soft in the middle. This one actually dries a lot better, and it's more firm too when it dries, as it should be. And so if you're gonna do something with spackling, this would be a better choice in my opinion. I'm sure the other one's great for patching walls, but probably not for making alien landscapes. Okay, so the next step now is to use a mixture of water and wood glue, and what I'm going to do then is apply it all around here, and then we're going to put our ground cover. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and let this dry, and then we may apply just a little bit more depending on how it looks. Okay guys, and this is what it's looking like so far. The orange color that you see here was done with this Americana paint called Canyon Orange mixed with this Americana brown sugar paint. It's probably about a 20-80 mixture there of brown to orange. And I was able to thin it out enough to put into my airbrush, and so I applied that color first, and then I took some of the mixture and added a little black to darken it up a bit, and I'm not sure you can tell in this lighting, but I applied some of that to the bottom sections here of these rock formations. I glued on some other rocks here as well as here, and I'm now going to apply some brown pastels just to give it a bit more shading and possibly a wash. Next step now is installing the lights, and this is the wiring here, so I'm basically just cutting everything here. I'm going to wire it up to a battery connector, and this will be wired up to a switch, and the switch will be mounted somewhere around here. Alright, just a few things here just to show you before I finish up the base. I added some foil here just to enhance the lighting. I wanted to make the light a little brighter inside each of the domes there, just to help with the window lighting. And then the other thing I'm doing now is I'm adding some shading here with some pastels. I'm just using some brown pastels now just to darken up some of these areas here. Okay, so this is what it's looking like so far, and what's next now is to install the blinking red lights and then to finally glue the habitat domes into place. Okay, so here we have now the wiring completed. I have two batteries, one for the blinking red lights and the other one for the windows. So it looks a little bit messy, but it works, and I'm just going to go ahead and tape all this down so it looks a little bit more organized. But I have two switches here to control each of the lights as well. Let's take a look inside the kit here now. This is what it comes with. You have three pieces of the hull. You've got the landing gear, and then you have these door sections that go inside these rectangular areas here. And of course you have the clear windows. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the instructions now. The model comes in three pieces, and I did play around with this a little bit. It looks like this is the only way to do it, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed with this sequence. We're going to go ahead and install the windows, install these rectangular pieces. We're going to piece two of them together, and then the top third. To protect the windows, what I'm going to do as I'm addressing the seams is just to mask them over with tape, and we'll go ahead and putty up the seams and smooth that over, and then after which we'll have to prime the model. While I'm painting, I'm going to go ahead and use liquid mask to protect the windows. But I am going to light block the interior because I've been going back and forth on this, but I've decided to go ahead and push forward with lighting the model. Okay, this is the interior of the rocket here now, and again, as I pointed out, it's kind of an awkward setup here where you have to glue three pieces of the hull together. But before I address any seams or anything like that, I went ahead and started setting it up for lighting on the inside, and that way we can put everything together. Then the wires will stick out at the bottom end, and we'll deal with that later. So I've just hooked in two 3mm LEDs here. Curious thing here that we'll take advantage of is that these windows actually have these little posts that stick out, and they're going to kind of act like fiber optics and channel the light through them, so it makes the windows brighter. So that's how I positioned them here. This is going to shine up enough to light the cockpit area there, and then this will shine at these windows here. We'll hook everything together, and as I said, the wires will feed through, and this is the top part here. And once this is done, we'll put this together and we'll start dealing with the seams. Okay, and this is the rocket assembled here now, and the seams have been addressed. As you've seen in my other videos, it's just a matter of applying putty along the seams. I started off with just white putty because the seam was fairly deep, and I just applied several coats of this and would sand it. One coat, let it dry, sand it. One coat, let it dry, sand it again. You know, repeat the process a few times, and then once that was done, I used this plastic putty here to deal with any irregularities that were still left behind, and now we have a smooth surface on all three sides. So again, applying the liquid mask all here. This is made by Humbrol. I just took a fine toothpick here and just applied it along the windows here, and you can see that's purple, and it does dry. It's purplish color here, and then it just peels off after we apply the paint. Okay, so far it's coming along pretty well. The rocket has now been primed with a white primer on top of the gray, and I did that because I've got to paint now with an airbrush the white color. I just thought it'd be easier to work with a white primer versus the dark gray. So that's what's left now, is to paint the body and the landing gear, and we're getting close to finishing up with the rocket, at least with construction anyway. Then we got to move on to the decals. The modification that needs to be made here is to create a little bit of sand that comes right up to the edge of the dome, so it doesn't look like it just comes flat onto the terrain here, and hopefully this will help with light blocking as well. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking some tacky glue, spreading it across the base of the domes, and just sprinkling enough sand there so that it adheres to the tacky glue, and then we gotta paint that orange like the rest of the base. Okay, just to show you one more update here before I reveal the final piece. I wanted to show you the base of the domes now have been filled in with the sand, so now the sand comes right up to the domes there. It did help with light blocking a bit, so that's good. And then this is the rocket now all pieced together, and it was fairly straightforward to put the rest of it together. The landing gear, it's a matter of just slipping the top piece here, and then these two rods here that extend from the landing gear to the rocket, and then the landing gear themselves just slid right in. So you can see the wires now are sticking out because got to light the interior now, and so what I've done is I drilled a small little hole here. The wires are going to feed through, and they'll feed into the same power source that are powering the interior lights here. The other thing I'm going to do is darken it up here, because if the rocket landed, you'd imagine the area being a bit scorched, so I'm going to do that, so it should hide that hole a little bit. There'll be some wires sticking through, but there's really no getting around that, so it'll be what it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up those things, and then I will show you now the final piece all put together here in just a second. Okay guys, and as I showed you at the beginning of the video, this is what I envisioned the concept to be, and now I'm going to show you the finished diorama. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the way things turned out. Let's just do a quick review here. The domes were constructed with some clear ornaments that I found at Michael's. They were painted both on the exterior and interior and outfitted with lights so that you have these windows that glow. Also, you see the blinking red lights there, and what's kind of cool is that in between the blinking, the lights still glow this cool bluish color because they're picking up the lighting from the 5mm LEDs that are inside. So in between the blinks, it still looks illuminated, which I didn't anticipate that would happen, but it's a cool effect. The blinking lights, again, I got from modeltrainsoftware.com. They've got a lot of selections there, so if you are interested in getting blinking lights, and by the way, they even sell blinking lights of faster blinking lights, or different rates, I should say. So those are available there from that website, and they're very helpful. If you have any questions, they can definitely answer them for you. And the rocket measures 12 inches from top to bottom there. Again, a replica of the TWA rocket that used to be seen at Disneyland in the 50s and 60s. The decals that you see here do not include the TWA designation, but they do include this signage here that you see Fastway on the side. They also give you some choices on what to name your rocket. Because I was using a Martian landscape, I used the Mars liner designation. Also very satisfied with the way the lighting turned out for the rocket interior. Remember, I showed you that there were these little protrusions that jut out from the windows towards the light source. They happen to point right towards the light source, and again, that does a really good job at drawing the light from those LEDs and illuminating the windows. Okay, just turning up the lights here so you can see these little men that I have on the surface. Again, these were ordered from shapeways.com, and all I did was search for a 1/144 scale astronaut, and sure enough, these guys showed up on the search, and they're even outfitted with the 1950s, 60s retro style astronaut suits. There was one other detail that I still have yet to add. It hasn't come in yet. There was a truck I found on eBay that's also 1/144 scale. It does look a little futuristic. It's a fueling truck, and if that does come in time, I plan to see what it looks like by placing it maybe here. The men, by the way, are just held in place by hot glue. It just takes a little hot glue to hold them in place, so if I did have to relocate them, it's really not a big deal. And you can see the other detailing I added again was the pastels that you can see along the edges of the domes. And also this area here was done with both an airbrush and pastels to create this scorched appearance. The wire that goes from the rocket down to the power source has been painted black to hopefully blend in a little bit with that. Now with wiring the rocket, I could have probably wired it through one of these guys here, but you know, I already had everything set to go through the center, so I just stuck with that plan. One other thing that I wish I should have done, and I really didn't think about it very well, was the light blocking issue here. So I probably should have taken the tulip paint first and then spread it across the bottom of the circumference of the domes there, and then added the glue and then the sand. But you know, it just dawned on me after everything was dried and I turned on the lights and you could see the light peeking through. I thought that the tacky glue and the sand would be enough, but there's still areas there you can still see shine through. Okay guys, well that pretty much does it. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this build and maybe it inspired you to make your own. I had a lot of fun putting it together. One of the funnest things to do really is to try to come up with things that are going to make your vision come true. So just trying to devise ways of bringing things together, kind of problem solving as you go along is really a big, huge part of it. So I'm going to go ahead, as I said, and enter this into the ValleyCon competition that comes up next week. I'll let you guys know how it does. If you have any questions about this build, of course, you can always contact me here at my YouTube channel or email me at interstellarmodeler@gmail.com. As always, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. And take care. I will see you in the next one.